My question is this: why do we talk about worldview, and specifically the biblical worldview?
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand, Dwight, with what I was describing in terms of our mission to help church recover a comprehensive view of her mission. And in order to do that, the church has to broaden its understanding of what it means to follow Christ, to be a Christian. And what it means is to really live out the reality of the fact that Christ is, as I said earlier, is King, and that shapes everything. That affects every aspect of our understanding of reality and who we are and how we should live. And so now we're talking that way. We're talking about worldview, and I think worldview is such an incredibly helpful concept. Worldview in short is it's the view, the lens that we have, the way we understand and view the world around us. And it comes to us from our culture. It comes to us from the time that we're children. We're enculturated into a particular view of the world and an understanding of who we are and what's real, and is there a God or is there not a God, and all of these things. And there's a true worldview, right? Because there's a God who created this world. There's a true biblical, if you will, worldview that we have to embrace, we have to put on. And what we found is that so many Christians, myself included, I mean, when we became Christians, we had a personal relationship with Christ. We were born again. We began to grow in our faith, but very often we still kind of wore the lenses of our culture, right? So we tended to think, in my case, in very secular ways about who I am and what does it mean to be a human. And it takes time to take off those secular lenses or animistic or whatever culture you come from, and to really embrace in this whole way, a whole way of thinking. It has to be it's a process of discipleship I fear we're not very good at yet. This kind of discipleship in a comprehensive worldview. So, but all that's important, because unless we have a comprehensive biblical worldview, we just can't make an impact in our culture. We're going to be functioning from the lenses or assumptions of our culture, and we're not going to be influential in changing that culture towards the truth if we think in the same ways as the culture. Again, love to hear your guys' thoughts on this question of worldview and why it's important to the DNA.
Sean, what are you thinking?
Well, again, I think you're right. It's, to me, what happened for me was understanding, and we've said it before, but the comprehensive nature of God's intentions beyond the spiritual world. Now, that's why we talk about the four panes of a window: the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the social. Where oftentimes the church only focuses on one or maybe two of those aspects, but the worldview, the biblical worldview, pulls us back far enough that we see, hey, there's four panes to this window, and as we address all four of those areas of life with God's word, then we begin to understand what flourishing can actually look like. And flourishing in all areas of life, not just in my personal relationship with Jesus or in my personal relationship with my family, but then how I run my businesses, how my social interactions work. Am I learning and growing and developing? So all areas of life, and that's made the difference for me in my own walk with God, is that once I was introduced to the comprehensive nature of the biblical worldview, his intentions for me exploded.
And Sean, it gives you a window or a lens to see the world in entirely new ways, and very powerful ways. So, for example, I mean, I could ask any number of Christian friends of mine, what is a true or a biblical view of something like economics or business or government or family? And my guess is that many of them would struggle to answer that question. And they might even say, that's not an important question, right? I mean, it's who cares about economics or culture? Maybe God's not interested in those things. Again, that narrow view.
Yeah.
We would say, no, God's interested in all things because he's king of all things. And his Bible speaks to all things. A biblical view shapes the way we see all things. Then you have to be kind of trained. How does the assumptions of the Bible, of human nature and reality, how does it shape the way we function in all of these areas of life and live in those areas as if Jesus really was the king? I think that's to me the power of worldview thinking. And, that's what we want to be pushing into, because the more that Christians can think in that way and answer those kinds of questions and live that out, the more influential they're going to be. Because if they're not doing that, they're just thinking in the same way about those things as their culture is, and so you can't change things if you're thinking in exactly the same way about business, economics, family, you name it, as your culture. You're not going to have any influence for the kingdom in those areas. So I'm sorry, Dwight, I'm rambling, but
no, I think it's great. It's great. I was just thinking, reflecting as you guys were talking, that for me, worldview there's two levels, ways to approach this. One, there's the worldview that we want to share with people. We're not going to impact our nation unless we have our worldview correct, or we have a biblical worldview. That's one level. And the other level is we ourselves will not work well. We won't live ordered lives ourselves without the biblical worldview, because we say ideas have consequences, and there are implications for those ideas. And so, I think it's so practical at all levels, this idea of knowing God's intentions for life and his plan, design for how we should live.